Hello and welcome to the Performance Physique podcast. My name is Arj and I am your head coach. This podcast is all about helping you with your running, your nutrition and your training. We take the jargon out of sports science to help you realise your goals faster than ever before. Let's get started.
So I thought, you know what, this is actually a really interesting topic because...
No, I think she's amazing. She really
one story that really caught my attention this week.
My story relates to a particular TV
Week in Review.
Oh yes, it's time for Week in Review. This is something that's very much a staple part of the show every Thursday. I cannot wait for this part of the show, I have to say, because it's just an opportunity to look back at the week that was. And what's fantastic is I'm always joined live in the studio with two Londoners. We discuss the story that matters to them, their part of London, what they're talking about. And of course, I'd like for you to share your thoughts. 0800 731 2000 is the number. Now, let's introduce our fantastic guests. Great to have them both back. I'm joined live in the studio with Amir Singh Dhillon, aka Moustache Marathon Man. If you'd like more details, you can find him on Amir Rocks. Over the past 12 years, it's quite something. He's been raising money for charity, recreating iconic images, moments from popular culture, a lot of really fun rock and roll looks, I must say. So head to that social media for more details. Also, great to have back in the studio Arj Thiruchelvam, founder of Performance Physique. You'll remember also our London Marathon expert here in the afternoons in Radio London. You can get more details for him on performance_physique. Great to have you both here. How are we?
Hello, Shay. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks very much
Doing
for having
well.
us back.
I think the team planned this on purpose to have both of you here because last week I was in no mood to talk about how I was feeling, and both of you respectively have done marathons, understand endurance sport, physical activity. Interesting, Arj, how you want to talk about Sara Cox's marathons for children in need, because it's a lot of physical impact, and I haven't necessarily discussed it since I took part in the Children in Need Challenge last week. So yeah, well done team is all I'm saying. Well done. But you wanted to talk about this today, didn't you? Let's unpack.
Absolutely. Well, Sara Cox, I think it was about 20 minutes ago, just crossed 100 miles of her marathon, 5-day marathon challenge. We were just saying off air, 35 miles still to go. You know, that's terrifying, isn't it?
Massive.
This, just to clarify, I coach marathons. I don't do them. I'm not crazy.
Okay.
I'm sensible.
You just coach the people that are crazy enough to run them, maybe like a bit. Oh, goodness.
But what she's going about, 5 marathons, back-to-back days, from a non-runner and off the back of 10 weeks training. I mean, for someone in my position from exercise science, and this is a no-no. Why would you put yourself through this? Yeah. And it's a pure demonstration of resilience. She is going through the battles every single day. You know, we hear and see the tears on social media and on BBC Radio 2 in the mornings. Yeah. It is a real challenge, but I think this is a great advert for how we can step up to a challenge which is outside of our comfort zone, whether we're a regular fitness person, whether it's outside of sport, and really, really put your mind to something to try and achieve success. I think it's
What's your thoughts on this, Amir?
I think it's incredible. I mean, I have the moniker Moustache Marathon Man, but I've only done the one marathon so far. But I think it's incredible that because when you do a marathon, people say to you the energy on the day, all the training leads up to that one day, and you can have this big surge and push on the day that gets you through. And that's so true. But having that 5 days in a row, minimal rest in between, 10 weeks of training, it's incredible. And I think it really is, like you say, just demonstration of mind over matter. So huge salute to Sara Cox. She's doing an incredible job for an amazing cause.
Big shout out to Sara Cox, because I think it is, and fundamentally, it's such an important cause to so many of our lives. Many of us, many people that I speak to, children in need, it's been a part of our whole lives. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like there was a moment last week when we were taking part in the 1,000-mile challenge for children in need. And we came out of the Royal Docks and there were 2 sets of school children. So these kids were, if I'm correct, in year 6 or year 7. No, they were in year 7. And so that's around about, 64 children. And they were all just screaming as soon as they saw Pudsey. And it was just so heartwarming. Like for me, I would say that was one of my standout moments taking part in the challenge last week, because it was tough doing it 3-legged, but you just saw. I know, honestly, I'm still wearing
Hats
trainers.
off to you as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I was waiting for that. No, I'm joking. Do you know, somebody said to me yesterday, a colleague of mine said to me yesterday, whether or not this year's challenge was harder than last year, because as you remember, last year I swam. This year was so much harder. This year was, totally, because I was tethered to a total of 12 different individuals. So once every hour, once every mile for each mile that I did, the individual changed. So, you know, you're looking at body height, weight, dynamics, hip alignment. It became very scientific for me.
Oh, no, that's complicated.
Yeah.
So was that the hardest part of it then?
Yeah.
The rhythm as opposed to the...
Totally, because what used to be really difficult for me is once I'd got into a rhythm, it was like, oh, bye-bye, now I've got to attach to a new person. And so that became quite something, and I am competitive.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting, because I think when you're running, especially long distances, when you get into a rhythm and you kind of zone out, that's when it gets a lot easier, and that's when you're able to, you kind of start ticking the miles off, at least in my experience anyway. But if you keep having that rhythm interrupted
and then you stop,
losing that might be just constantly getting snapped out of the
total
zone.
Nightmare. That plus obviously Londoners. bit of an issue when you're walking around London. And I am that Londoner who gets really wound up. You know, when somebody stood in the middle of a pavement and they're on their phone and you're like, can you move? And literally I just want to make a formal apology to all Londoners. If they saw me and the team walking through the streets of London last week, tethered to individuals, I want to apologise, because I know we were disruptive. Because, you know, people just want to get about their day. Yeah. And then there you are trying to take part in this challenge, and they're looking at you like, what are you doing? There were many of Londoners who didn't care. They're like, oh, okay, this is London.
This happens.
This happens.
Yeah.
You
just
know,
another day.
exactly. And then there were those that were just like, can you just move? Can you just, you know, oh wow, thank you. Producer Sonia's just brought in my worst nightmare. No, I'm joking. She's just brought in the what do we call this, Morgan?
Loop bands.
The tether.
Oh, is that the actual
The
tether?
tether one was tethered to my ankle and the other person was tethered to, so basically they're two elastic bands, huge elastic bands. Would you ever do a 3-legged race?
I'm trying to think. The last time I did a 3-legged race, I reckon I was about 4 years old.
Wow.
Which is not long ago.
No, clearly.
I would for charity.
Okay, fair dues. So we'll put you on the list. What about yourself, Amir?
I'm going to cop out with, the way it impacts the rhythm you run will just aggravate some injuries that I have. So unfortunately, I can't do it. I'll do an egg and spoon race.
Yeah, because I've never done a 3-leg. Everyone in the office could not believe that I've never done a 3-legged race. In my school, I must have been the only school in London, we used to do egg and spoon. We used to do the sack race. Where you're supposed to do that.
Hardcore.
The
that's
hurdles,
like high rocks.
Yeah, basically. And I remember many a time falling flat on my face. Never did a 3-legged race.
Oh, wow. You missed out, but you made up for it just now.
Yeah.
more than
lifetime's work of 3-legged race. Right, stay with me because we'll continue to have a chat with my guest straight after this. 3:27 is the time. Shay here on BBC Radio London. Big thanks to both of my guests for staying with me. Joined live in the studio today with Arj Thiruchelvam, founder of Performance Physique. More details on performance_physique, and also Amir Singh Dillon, aka Moustache Marathon Man. More details on him on socials. It's Amir Rocks. So let's go to one story before we head to travel, shall we? And I feel like almost we need to kind of stay in the theme of marathons, Amir. London fundraising feel-good story. Tell us about this. The ex-gamer who's taken on, is it 74 ultra marathons in 74 days? Yeah,
74 ultra marathons in 74 days, which, to the point that we were just saying about doing things back to back, is pretty incredible. So his name is Sam King. He's I believe he's doing all of these pretty much around Battersea Park.
Wow.
But he's been doing 74 in a row. He's had some previous ultramarathon experience, but he's doing it, I believe, in honour of his mum.
So that's right. It's been inspired by his mum's near fatal brain injury, and he's hoping very much to raise £74,000 for charity, and he wants to run 2,292 miles in 74 days in his hometown. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I just think there's so many sort of fundraising, and as someone who did a lot of fundraising and still does a lot of fundraising, there's so many of these stories that we hear about, like Sara Cox or Jamie Lang last year.
Yeah.
And then, everyday people who are doing just incredible things that you just can't wrap your head around. Running 31 miles a day, 74 days in a row is just absolutely incredible. And I know that he, like a lot of social media fundraising, I really wanted to bring this one on air because I know that sometimes it's when you're doing things on social media and it's to your friends and family, it can be hard to get that lift. And I just thought people need to hear about this. And his content on Instagram is hilarious as well, and it's great to follow along. So yeah, Sam King, give him a Google, check him out on his Instagram page. He's got a pretty incredible backstory, and yeah, 74 ultra marathons in 74 days.
It's amazing. I'm looking at the team, guys. We need to get him on the show. He's a Londoner. We need to have him on the show. We want to find out how it's going. Maybe he completes one of his marathons and then runs into the studio. Let's see if he can do that. What's your thoughts?
I think it's really important that people try to get an understanding of just what these incredible endurance challenges are.
Okay,
because
that's a good point.
I think it's we hear about marathons and all these kind of things so often now.
Yeah,
it's really, really quite damaging on a cellular level to do something of endurance, which is around a marathon, 26 miles. That's quite damaging in itself. To do something back to back to back to back to back, we're talking really serious damage that we put our body through. For someone to be able to run 10 minutes sometimes is a physical challenge, but most likely you're not going to risk damaging yourself. When you're talking for these kind of distances and this volume of running, you're putting yourself at a lot of risk for, it's called rhabdomyolysis, which is basically a breakdown of tissue, and it can affect your kidneys.
Right.
There's a lot of issues here, which if you think realistically you've woken up after going to the gym and you're a little bit sore, that's not in the same league as what these individuals that we mentioned today are actually going to go through. So to be able to do something so repeatedly challenging, you just need to think of what is the most difficult thing that you could possibly imagine doing, times it by 2, and then think about doing that every single day.
Gosh, that would be my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
But then also that just shows how important it is to support individuals like this. Thank you for putting this on the agenda, Amir, and the team are nodding. We're going to try and get in touch with Mr. King and get him on the show. Right, my favourite time of the show. Huge thanks to my guests for staying with me on Radio London for Week in Review. To Amir Singh Dillon, aka Moustache Marathon Man. You can get more details for him on Amir Rocks on social media, and also to Arj Thiruchelvam, founder of Performance Physique. More details on performance under Physique. I have to say, Arj, really was surprised that you've put this story on the agenda. Everyone's been talking about Prince William, his comments on Prince George not having a mobile phone. I mean, that particular clip is just gone viral. And as much as usually you two tend to talk about sports-related stories, you have put this on the agenda. It's from The Guardian saying, children being sedated by algorithmic YouTube content. Experts, including children's laureate lament low quality of entertainment, are calling for more funding for children's TV. So why is this important for you? Is this more because you are a dad now?
Yeah.
Because I get that. No, but I think this is something that has got a lot of people talking.
Yeah. I think this comes back really to, I don't know if maybe we've discussed this on air before, but I remember when I was, I wasn't expecting, my wife was expecting, and I said, well, he's not going to watch any screens, and everyone laughed at me, and everyone said that's going to last 2 weeks. Well, he's 2 years old, and we're still at that point. And
what? No screens? Wow.
No TV, nothing like that. And it's not a judgment on what each person does. I think it's just what I felt. I spent all my time outside playing sports, basically. And I said, look, there are benefits to screen time. We know that it helps with cognitive development in certain skills. So I'll let him watch sport so he can develop those movements. But if it's not sport, it's not on. And there was one time where we buckled. It was 3 hours into a flight, and we were like, he'd done really well, and now he was really bored, and he was having enough. So we're like, right, let's get some David Attenborough Under the Sea on, put it on this screen.
Wow.
And we were like, we're going to be okay for the final hour flight. He just went, no screen, Dada.
Oh goodness!
He had no interest because we were our own problem here. So the reason I've popped it on is because we know the negative impacts now of screen time under 2 years. We know about certain nations banning social media for children to access. I think France is the latest one.
Australia, of course, as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And there is also a new piece of emerging research which I've just started looking at, which is around the type of children's shows and the frame rate and the certain Pantone colours that they use in those shows, how it encourages children to effectively stay watching that screen.
Are we referring to, there's one particular, I know that, I've seen actually in recent years, people really kind of coming out and saying they were concerned about, but there are still many fans of it. Coco Melon, that's the one that a lot of people talk about. I remember when our little one was growing up, there was a whole phase of like Baby Shark, and like that just drove us absolutely crazy. And then my husband Sonny was just like, I've had enough of this, and he's a huge fan of Mr. Bean, and so we got the Mr. Bean cartoons, and I kid you not, those were the only ones that we all watched as a family. But they were fun, they were engaging. It didn't feel like it was geared up to anything specific.
So with you, because the one paper, I'm sports science, I don't know anything about this stuff, but the one paper I read, which looked at a comparison to the stuff we grew up watching in the 90s, compared to this stuff now, there was some real ethical development, and the fact that we had adverts, we had to be patient, was different, and that's where then this YouTube piece comes in, because it can endlessly roll, can't it?
That's a very good point. What's your thoughts on this, Amir?
I don't feel massively qualified to talk about this because I don't have kids. I just have the nostalgia of Thomas the Tank Engine being the greatest visual art form of all time. But I think what's really interesting about this is that there is the amount of screen time for all of us has gone up exponentially in the last 10 years, and it's one of these things where the research, the regulations, whatever, can't keep up with the technology. And
that's a very good point.
There are things that people have been doing, or the amount of screen time that they have, or not realizing that maybe like that research you pointed out about kids under a certain age and the impact of screen time. There's so much that I think we just won't know, and that it'll take time for it to catch up on. So I think it's definitely one of these challenging situations where the technology has just moved faster than we've been able to think about. Is this right? Is this wrong? Even something like autoplay, like I'd never even considered that. I always just thought it was bad for me as an adult, just vegging out through, YouTube videos or swiping onto the next reel or whatever. But
there's a term from that, isn't there? Which is obviously doom scrolling, where people do that, but then you don't often realize that maybe your child is doing that, even though it is, of course, with streaming services now and apps, and obviously places like YouTube, they also have child friendly. So you have, like, for example, YouTube Kids. But even within that, a child can just become so consumed and just watches it for forever. And it's concerning. But I guess my question to you is, at what point do you think a screen will be allowed?
Well, I was looking up the light phone earlier, which is basically have you seen that?
Yes.
Well, I think it's going to be in his school. They're going to, his generation will be using tablets, I imagine.
They already are.
Effortlessly more than paper, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I don't want him to struggle in that kind of aspect of things. I also think it's really important to get across that we're really lucky. We have parents locally who can help support, bring them up. I obviously run my own business, so time is a place of luxury for many people who need that screen to occupy their child for a bit. So I think it's just a really delicate balance of how you use it. In my house, I think it will forever be, I want you to put sport first and foremost, because I'm just massively biased, aren't I, about sport.
But then the studies kind of back it up, don't they? Just around engagement for children, activities. You know, it's a big part of, I think, a lot of children's childhood, and you want to hold on to that for as long as you can. Let's move to the next story then, shall we? This was quite an interesting one, Amir, that you wanted to talk about. Pressure growing to release 15 penguins that have been trapped in a basement without sunlight or fresh air. That's what this article says. It's been in a few of the papers, including on Sky, saying Merlin Entertainment has said cares deeply about the well-being of the Gentoo penguins and their enclosure mimics their natural environment. However, there are many campaigners who remain unconvinced. What did you want to say about this then?
Yeah, this story really stood out to me because I'm a big animal rights and animal lover kind of guy.
Okay.
And I think it's easy to demonize zoos and places like that, and there's obviously, you know, there are lots of, I think there's more nuance to a lot of these things, but I thought it was interesting because the Sea Life Centre is right in the middle of London. It's next to the London Eye. It's opposite the Houses of Parliament.
That's right.
MPs have said how this is un-British, and there are various petitions doing the rounds, and I just think that in this day and age, do we think it's right that we have wild animals not in a basement but in a room with no light? And I understand it's climate controlled and the air is filtered, and you know, you can't just release them into the Thames or whatever, but it's an interesting thought that do we need to maybe have some higher standards around what we think is acceptable for essentially wild animals? And I can hear people already saying things like, you know, there are bigger fish to fry or bigger problems, no pun intended. But I think it's an interesting thing that we should think about, and it's gaining momentum. I think it's sad, isn't it? If we have a bit of empathy and we think about, you know, you imagine what that you just think, is that a fair existence for these animals that maybe could deserve.
If I can interject with that, because obviously this is something you're really passionate about now. Sea Life London Aquarium, they've said we have an incredible team of conservationists, animal welfare specialists and aquarists who are with the penguins every day, making sure they're healthy and thriving. We do not do this alone. We work with some of the best penguin experts in the world. That includes vets, specialists in penguins behaviour and habitat design. So that that some of what has been kind of, people have been critical of campaigners. The petition initially, I should say, of course, was started by Freedom for Animals campaign, but critics of that have said, well, hold on, you need to look at the wider context. They just haven't picked up some penguins from somewhere and put them in, you know, essentially what they're trying to describe as a dungeon. You know, they are working with leading experts to ensure that there's a right, safe environment for these penguins. Do you see that side or not? I do see that side. And this is why I think that these things aren't as black and white. I totally see that side. And I do believe that they work with leading experts and everything. And do a lot of conservation work as well. You know, that makes a big difference. That's why I'm not as black and white when it comes to things like zoos or animals in captivity as other people might be. I just think, can't both things be true at once? Can it not be the case that maybe they are working with experts, and that in the situation as it is, in the space that they're in, they're doing the best they can, but would there not be a better way to do it somewhere else, or in a different way? So obviously we've got London Zoo, haven't we, which they also have penguins, but their environment is very different to Sea Life Centre. What's your thoughts on this, Arj?
It's funny you mention it, really, because I've had a moment of realisation, actually, because
go on.
I have historically felt very uncomfortable around zoos and those kind of things, because I think, we're taking it away from their natural environment, etc. And yet I didn't go to this Sea Life Centre, but I did go to another Sea Life Centre and saw the penguins, and that was the highlight of the actual thing. And I was like, how fantastic is this? And you know, it was for Jordan's birthday, actually, and he loved it. And now I'm thinking, because they were like a water-based creature or something like that, did I look at them? Did I perceive it slightly different from a normal zoo environment? I think it's really difficult because... But
I have to just interject here. So is it not the case that for many people, essentially, we are still looking at conservation back from the early 1900s, where, you know, animals were just caged up? I mean, reference point here for London Zoo, if anyone's not aware, London Zoo is part of Zoological Society of London. It's a global wildlife conservation charity. Okay, so
Yeah,
a lot of the
absolutely.
work that they do actually ensures that some of these endangered species, which would not survive in their natural habitats, not only are protected but thrive, and then when possible are released back into the wild. They work with scientists, conservationists, community specialists, active in over 70 countries. So do we not need to kind of get more of an understanding around what's taking place in conservation work in London?
100%, in my opinion. My thing was, after visiting this zoo, and it was in Toronto, was like, oh, it's wonderful actually what they get to do. I'm going to put a little bit of a donation in, and we had this donation, a reoccurring donation. I wouldn't have done that had I not visited the zoo.
Okay.
So I think there is an element of it exposes you and it enhances your knowledge of something, and therefore that triggered a donation to help look after them.
I'll give you a final thought. What did you want to say?
No, I agree. That was, I think, one of the initial things that I was saying was I agree that there are good things that they do. I just think
some would say fantastic.
Yeah,
game changing scientific things that they're doing. Come on, let's really understand here.
But that's ZSL and that's London Zoo.
Right.
This specifically, I think, in this situation, are there better things that can be done?
Okay, well, Sea Life Centre is also part of the Sea Life Trust. They also do fantastic conservation work. So whether they're protecting the world's oceans, whether they're working with an array of millions of technicians, scientists across the world. So I guess it's a wider picture, isn't it, is what I'm trying to put to you.
Yeah, and I don't dispute the bigger picture, but I think if there are individual instances in that bigger picture where things aren't done to...
So you don't want it happening in London, is what you're saying?
I'm saying that if it's I don't know, it's not necessarily that it's in London, but if people have raised concerns, if there are concerns that are being raised about the size of an enclosure or the environment in it, should that be investigated thoroughly?
If they brought 100 scientists, and penguin specialists, let's say they were here in the room with you now, and these experts said, well, actually, this is totally fine. These penguins are thriving and they are happy. Would that be enough for you to say, okay, we'll accept it? Or would you still just want them, I don't know what, outside of an enclosure?
If 100 experts came into this room and told me that it was fine, then I would change my opinion because I would listen to the experts.
Okay.
It's not just a gut reaction thing, but it's based on what other experts in conservation have said on this issue.
Okay.
Maybe we need to think about having a making a better,
great topic.
Better enclosure.
0800 731 2000. We'll be back straight after this.
So I thought, you know what, this is actually a really interesting topic because...
I think she's amazing.
One story that really caught my attention this week.
My story relates to a particular TV
Week in Review.
Alrighty, it is 3:55. We're in the last part of Week in Review here in Radio London, and a big thanks to both my guests for staying with me. Arj Thiruchelvam, founder of Performance Physique. More details on performance_physique, and also Amir Singh Dillon, who is a moustache marathon man. You can get more details on Amir Rocks. Let's get final stories then, shall we? First one we were going to go to, Arj, was yours around social media spreading misinformation, especially when it comes to product ingredients recently. Tell us more, and what examples did you want to talk about here?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 8 years ago, we started seeing a lot of misinformation in terms of sports nutrition and like fitness myths, and there's been a real shift of that now encroaching on kind of everyday foods and eating, and certain people love to go into shops and pick up items off the shelf and then start talking about them. And then it becomes very obvious to some people in the industry that they don't have any kind of knowledge or education about what they're talking about.
Right.
I'd be embarrassed to do some of the things that these people do. And the big one, which has been in the press for the last couple of weeks, is about British brands, Cadbury's. There are other chocolates available, obviously.
Thank you,
I thought I had to say that.
Thank you.
But they've changed their recipe, or they're secretly reducing cocoa, and that's against the regulations. And these people are stating regulations and they're misstating them quite often in the videos. These individuals, maybe one in particular, she's there saying, I think it's like this, but I'm not actually sure of the regulation. Maybe someone who does. And then going on to fearmonger. And I think it's really interesting to see the shift has moved from sports and weight loss kind of nutrition.
Okay, now it's gone to food and
Exactly.
chocolates.
And it's around this whole ultra-processed foods. There isn't officially a definition for ultra-processed foods.
Sure.
Actually, in nutrition, there's a lot of messaging. And these people are putting people at risk who have maybe eating disorders or disordered eating, two different things, and are removing, quite frankly, what's one of the immediate things why we go for maybe a chocolate bar is because I like the taste of it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to survive off it every single day, but, a row gives me a lot of happiness and satisfaction after a really stressful day at work.
Is it frustrating?
Oh, it's immensely frustrating. I want to comment all the time, but I know that's really not very productive.
So you spend all day just commenting on all and be
my
that
whole
job.
boss did,
Really?
He used to do that, yeah.
What's your take on this, Amir?
It's just an age-old problem with social media, I think, is misinformation and kind of like we're talking about technology not being able to catch up.
Yes.
Misinformation will get around the world so much faster than you can clarify it, and that can be pretty dangerous.
And that's actually, I think, why it's important that we keep raising it and talking about it, and people need to, don't they, really look into the source of where they get their information. Final story then, Amir, was for yourself. You wanted to talk about Sydney Sweeney. She's got a new film coming out called Christie. And so tell us more about what you wanted to say, 'cause she's been in the news, hasn't she?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Sydney Sweeney story because a couple of months ago she was in an advert for an American jeans company that very unsubtly poked around with the tagline, Sydney Sweeney has great jeans. And there was a lot of backlash from people on one side of the political spectrum, a lot of support from people on the other side. And it became one of these hot button divisive issues because the implication was, she's white, she has white genetics, that's a good thing.
Okay.
Which, is in this day and age can be quite a problematic thing. GQ interviewed her this week and she finally broke her silence on it. The interviewer sort of said to her, in today's day and age, is this the right thing that we should be joking out in the world where there's white supremacy and things like that? And her answer was very dismissive and was, if I have something that I want to talk about, that I feel passionate about, I'll talk about it. And she's come under a lot of criticism for this.
Okay.
And I think it's really interesting because last time I was on the show, we were talking about racial division in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think if we look at the world today, this might be like an innocuous ad campaign featuring a well-known pop culture icon, an up-and-coming actress. Fine, that's one thing. But I think it's important to look at the bigger picture. We are living in an age of genocide in Palestine, in Sudan, of racial division here in the UK, the US. High increase in racially aggravated attacks. There are statistics on that. Increase in Islamophobia, etc., etc. I think it's appropriate that there's a backlash because in this world that we live in now, joking about things along the lines of eugenics, I think is actually really toxic. And I think this is emblematic of a lot of deeper problems that we've talked about on the show before and that I think are really worth having some critical thought on.
Just on that final point, is it who should pick up on these conversations? Is it journalists? Is it the individuals themselves? Do they go to social media? I'll ask you, Arj, and then I've got to leave it there.
I think it's the journalists who have the opportunity to ask the questions, but it's the social media, it's the people who can make the biggest shift. Because if you turn off Sydney Sweeney's films, for example, which it appears like they have, then that's going to take power away. If
you'd like to share your thoughts on this, 0800 731 2000 is the number. Arj and Amir, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Pleasure having you both here as always. You can get more details for both of my guests on social media. So it's performance_physique for Arj and also Amir Rocks on social media.
Thank you very much for listening to the Performance Physique podcast. Don't forget, you can find us on Instagram. It's at performance_physique. You can find us on Facebook, Performance Physique, or if you just head to performancephysique.co.uk, and we'll do our very best to help you. It will mean the world to me, though, if you can share this podcast with one friend this week. Right, for now, take care.